Warning, what you are about to hear is adult conversation, almost always child-friendly, but still adult conversation, and our opinions could offend you. If they do, sorry, maybe you can go find a podcast that doesn't do that. What you are listening to now is the Central Indiana Sports Report, podcast number 307.2, the IU Report with Grant Shouse. After a little bit of breaking news that we found out in the bathroom, apparently, we are going to ask Grant to look into his cream and crimson crystal ball.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Welcome, IU fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report and the IU Report with Grant Shouse. Today is Thursday, June 26, 2025. We are at Stage 22 here to talk some IU sports, and the theme today is we're going to have Grant look into his crystal ball to talk about what he expects from IU football and basketball. But first, Grant, you have some breaking news that you read in the bathroom.
Yeah. Indiana will be hosting Kansas State as a part of its non-conference basketball schedule this year. The game is set for Tuesday, November the 25th, which I believe is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. So will be a nice crowd going into Thanksgiving, especially when people come home for the holiday.
It's a good opponent.
It's a really good opponent. And I don't know if it's a home-and-home series where they'll be playing at Indiana the first year, if they'll go to Kansas State the following year. I've not read into those details yet, but Indiana getting a good opponent that is adding to the non-conference schedule that we know of with Marquette, Kentucky, and Louisville. Now also Kansas State. Those are
nice.
At least four Power 5 opponents with more to come. There's no question about it. There will be more on that list as time goes on. We'll see that non-conference schedule, I believe, come out probably here mid-July, late July, I would say, usually is when they start to roll in. You have teams like Purdue that have already released their non-conference schedules, and so it'll help that Indiana will have Kansas State on its non-conference schedule this following year, and then of course you get the kind of the smaller schools to come in as well, which will definitely play a big factor. So looking forward to see what they can do against Kansas State and some of those other non-conference teams. The reason it's important, like we said, is that week of Thanksgiving when people come home to Bloomington for the holidays, what is the one thing to do while they're in town? It's to go to the basketball game.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's also leading up to the old Oaken Bucket game, which will be on Friday this year at Purdue on national television. Hope and pray to be at that game. But I think it's going to be a good non-conference schedule for Indiana, and we're already seeing we're already seeing big games being added to it. So that's big.
All right, Grant, what we're going to do, not a lot of news in the summer for IU.
No, except for what we just talked about.
Exactly.
Kind of a little bit of
every
news.
once in a while there's some news. So we're just going to look into your crystal ball, and I'm going to ask you to make some predictions about what we can expect from IU. You want to start with basketball or football?
We can start with basketball.
We'll start with basketball. All right. How many years before Coach DeVries gets IU in the Final Four?
That's a good first question. That's going to require me to make me think. That's I think it could range anywhere. I think it could range between because you never know. I think that's a tough prediction to make, actually.
It is. It's a lot tougher now than it used to be.
Yeah, because any given year, any team can make the Final Four when you get on a hot run. Are you saying a Final Four caliber team?
Right, exactly.
There
we go.
A Final Four caliber team. I think it's gonna take 2 or 3 years. I don't think it won't be next year, and I don't even think it'll be the year after that. My concern is for Indiana is I think we need to lower the standard a little bit. I think the standard needs to be
for now.
The question, I think,
for now.
Yeah, the question right now should be how long is it going to be before we put Coach DeVries on the hot seat? Because it seems like after the first 2 years, if a coach at Indiana is not doing well, maybe time to get them fired. I'm not one of those people.
We're going to assume right now that he's going to do well, though, right?
Of course.
Right.
He was very nice and gracious to us the other day, so we have to root for him.
That's right.
I think he's gonna take them to new heights that Mike Woodson wasn't gonna sniff because Mike Woodson didn't want to. I think as a listener, if you listen to this a lot, you're gonna notice me bashing Coach Woodson. Sorry. I mean,
not sorry.
Not
it's
really. Yeah, not really.
It's part of your job now.
It's going to be the way things are around here, and
not as a person.
I think for now, Coach DeVries is going to be good. I think it's going to be a couple years before he can lead them into a Final Four caliber team.
So your crystal ball says this is a long-term thing with DeVries.
Yeah, I really do. I think Indiana needs the guy that can, and I may be wrong, but I think Indiana needs a guy that is going to take them to. I think you need a guy who's going to be there for the long haul, who can be the next standard for Indiana basketball. The last longest tenured coach they had was Tom Crean, and he was there 9 years. And the one before him that was there a long time was there for 29 years, almost 30 years, and Bob Knight. So
the one before him was there a long time too.
Exactly. Indiana used to be a destination for the long run. It has now, unfortunately, I wouldn't say become a stepping stone job.
Oh, no.
But it's become a job where careers almost go to die. Archie Miller is his career post Indiana is dead. Really post Dayton, since he left Dayton for Indiana, is dead. Mike Woodson, no career anymore, except he's with the Sacramento Kings, which is good for him. But Indiana needs to establish itself again as the job that is one of the top jobs in the country. And unfortunately, the fan base thinks that it is when it is not. And the reason the fan base thinks that is when the coaching mill comes around and the rumor mill starts up again, you're wanting guys like Scott Drew. Well, Scott Drew the previous year turned down the Kentucky job to stay at Baylor. Kentucky's a far better job than Indiana. You have guys like Chris Beard, who weren't even offered the job. Rick Pitino was a name that, it'd be great to have Rick Pitino. No. They're not coming to Indiana. They don't want to come to Indiana anymore. They know they don't.
Under the right circumstances,
I don't think so, though. I think they know what Indiana can entail, and Indiana can be a rough job.
It can be a rough job, but not as rough as Kentucky.
Yeah. I do agree with you on that.
Okay.
I think even we're going to talk about football later, but it also applied to football there for a long time, where it was the toughest job in the Big Ten, where when you were in the Big Ten East and you were getting beat up on by Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State,
Michigan State,
yeah, you were the worst team in your division. And thankfully, they've done away with those. Divisions now. And I think that Indiana's a tough job for those reasons, because you are a flagship Big Ten school. You are one of the top 3 main Big Ten schools. You are. Mm-hmm. You're going to disagree. Okay.
No doubt about it.
Okay. IU
is the Big Ten.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in a Midwest town.
Yeah.
Midwestern
IU,
values.
Michigan, Ohio State, that's the Big Ten. That's...
Yes. And I think that Indiana has been a rough job for all those reasons, and it doesn't matter the sport. It doesn't matter if it's basketball, football, baseball, women's basketball, the soccer job, which is undoubtedly one of the best programs in the nation when it comes to soccer. They've won 8 national championships as a program. It's a tough place to be a coach. It's a fun place to be a coach when you're winning, and it's a great place to be. It's a great town to live in, and you get great support. But when it's not going good, it's not going good, and you are the most hated person in the world.
We need to mention that we got that update from Rocco Miller.
Yes.
So got to always cite our sources.
Yep. Credits to
Not
Rocco.
just it didn't magically appear in the bathroom.
No,
Okay.
it actually was not written on the mirror when I walked in.
No.
Yep.
Stage 22 is a magical place. Not quite that magical. All right. Does your crystal ball how clear is your crystal ball when it comes to a starting lineup for the basketball?
I think Indiana's starting lineup will look like this. No question. Tucker DeVries at one of your forwards, a 6'7" redshirt senior from Waukee, Illinois.
And West Virginia.
And West Virginia. And Drake.
And Drake,
yep. Another guy, Lamar Wilkerson, 6'6" redshirt senior guard from Ashdown, Arkansas, coming over from Sam Houston State, will be another. 6'10" forward Reed Bailey from Harvard, Massachusetts, coming from Davidson College. He wears number 1 for the Hoosiers. I think will be the third starter. The fourth starter is a 6'3" guard, a redshirt senior from Burleson, Texas, who comes from Troy University, who was the Sun Belt Player of the Year in Tayton Connerway. And then I think the fifth starter could range, and I think there'd be a battle for that fifth starting spot with Josiah Miles, a 6'6" guard from North Florida. Another guy, Sam Alexis, a 6'9" forward from the University of Florida, who just won a national championship.
I think he's a starter.
And then two other guys with Nick Dorn, who is a 6'7" junior from Charlotte, North Carolina, coming by way of Elon, and Josh Harris, a 6'8" forward sophomore from North Florida as well.
So Trent Sisley, you're hoping is a starter eventually?
I think he'll be one that'll be in the rotation. I don't know that he'll be a starter right away because there will be other guys that have more college experience ahead of him that have played college basketball longer. But I think by the end of the year, he's one. I think he's one that's going to be a Luke Goody.
It would be good. It would be a good thing if he is in the starting lineup to start the season. It would show that he is there to be the leader of the program.
I'm telling you,
and that's what you need.
I really don't think we'll know that starting lineup until the first game of the year.
Right. But except for your crystal ball, just told you. So.
Well, yeah.
Other than that,
yeah. Hopefully my crystal ball is correct though.
Crystal ball. Where does IU finish in the Big Ten in Coach DeVries' first year?
The Big Ten's always going to be loaded.
It's really loaded this year.
And Purdue's going to be the team to beat. I think with that roster and that lineup we just talked
State
about.
Too. Yeah.
Well, those teams are always Illinois. I mean, they're always good. Iowa with a new coach, always going to be good. But I think Indiana realistically can finish in the top 5 or 6 in the Big Ten, which is good considering when you have 18 teams. I think it's going to be a good first year for Coach DeVries. I really hope. And they may lose some of those non-conference games we talked about, like Kentucky and Marquette and Louisville. But I think it's going to make them better come the Big Ten season, which is why you schedule those kind of games. And I think that non-conference schedule alone is enough to push Indiana to be in the top 5 in the league and compete with teams like Purdue and Michigan State and Illinois and Iowa and those others, even those West Coast teams like UCLA and USC and the revitalized with Oregon and Washington and even going out east to Maryland, who's always good.
So you're expecting a tournament team?
Yeah, I think they will be in the NCAA. That's probably answering another one of your questions, but I think they'll be in the NCAA tournament.
That was definitely my next question.
Okay, yeah,
your crystal ball has them in the tournament.
Yeah, I don't know where yet, but I do believe that they'll be in the NCAA tournament.
By the way, ESPN's bracketology has them the second team out.
Well, especially, I think they could be in the NCAA tournament now that we're seeing a push to expand that tournament.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to happen. Next year there
should happen.
Well, there's going to be about 76 teams in the tournament. And I think Indiana's going to be one of them.
I say let them all in.
I think it should be invite only in that tournament.
Oh, I agree with that.
It's the greatest postseason in sports.
I don't mean every single team in the country. I mean every team that's eligible. You could conceivably see of being a tournament team.
There'll be different ways on how they're going to do that, but it will. I don't know if it'll be next year, but it's going to be within the next 2 or 3 years that there's going to be between 72 and 76 teams in the tournament.
Yeah, have the top seeds only play in the final 6 rounds, right?
Or get an automatic bye.
That's what I mean. Into the final 6 rounds where it normally is,
right? To
the field of 64. Have the top 4 seeds or whatever. Yeah, I have no problem with that. People say, "Oh, it's a participation trophy thing." No, it's not. you don't know where the national champion's going to come from in basketball.
No, you don't.
There are years, as we've seen, where was it NC State had to win the ACC, had to win and made it to the Final Four.
They've done that twice in their program's history.
Exactly. And so
it's unreal.
So sometimes a small school didn't get in. Maybe they were, if they'd gotten in, I just,
like Indiana State in 2024.
The more the better is all I'm saying. I think.
And you know who kept them out of the NCAA tournament? Coach DeVries and Drake.
Oh, is that right?
Beat him in the Missouri Valley Tournament Championship.
That's correct. And last basketball question, Grant. Long term, how many national championships does DeVries win?
Another question similar to your Final Four question that it's going to be hard telling. I don't know.
Give me a year.
I'll take you.
Give me a number.
Let's see, we're going into the 2025
4,
2026 year.
So you're gonna win
I
4,
think
5, 6?
if he stays by the end of the 2030s, maybe.
All right.
Somewhere in the 30s.
You're gonna win 4 or 5 national titles?
I'll take one.
One.
I'll take one, but 4 or 5 would be great. But me personally, I'd take one.
More than Matt Painter?
Any more than Purdue is good with me. I could stomach and I can't believe I'm saying this. I could stomach a Purdue national championship if it means Indiana could win 3 or 4 afterwards in my lifetime.
I hear what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
I would love for both of them to be competitive again. I would love that.
I know.
And I think, by the way, we're starting to see an era where IU and Purdue football may both be good. I like what Barry Odom's doing up at Purdue.
We'll see.
But let's jump into your IU crystal ball because, of course, your crystal ball is cream and crimson. Mm-hmm. It's not black and gold.
No,
so we're
never
not
will
ask
be.
you to talk about
Never
Purdue football, but I have the IU football schedule in front of me. I want to ask you each game, win or loss.
Okay.
And then we'll come up with a final record.
Okay.
Obviously, they open with Old Dominion.
That's
Easy
a win.
Then they play Kennesaw State.
Win.
Indiana State.
Win.
All right, here we go. September 20th, Illinois in Bloomington.
It'll be the first test. And why I like Indiana's chances is because it's at home. And Illinois is going to be a top 10 team. But so is Indiana. That's going to be a top 10 match that's going to draw.
Illinois, Indiana is going to be a top
unbelievable,
10
right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And
every year you go as a Purdue fan, you go into a football season thing. Maybe we can beat Illinois and Indiana.
Yep. I think you could see that game garner a lot of attention. Like,
yeah,
College game day could be in town. Your big noon kickoff. I pray to God it's not that, but. Because big noon kickoff sucks. That's a whole other conversation for another podcast. Would like to see game day be in town for that, and I think Indiana comes away with a win there. I really do. I think after playing your non-conference schedule, you get into your Big Ten schedule, and you're playing at home. And you've already played 3 weeks in a row at home, and then you get Illinois at home, which is big. I think Indiana after that could be 4-0.
Trip to Iowa.
Tough, because Iowa is a program that's always good. They're good at home. They're always good at home. The thing is Indiana's defense is going to be really good against Iowa's slow-moving offense. I think Indiana goes on the road and wins that one at Iowa, but it'll be a close game and maybe a couple overtimes. Indiana, we saw last year, was not great on the road. And it showed in their game at Ohio State, and it showed in their game at Notre Dame. I think that'll change this year. I think the mentality is going to be a little different. It'll be confident, but it's going to have to be different if they're going to go on the road and win.
So
I think it's a win.
At Oregon.
Loss. First loss, and understandably, right? Oregon's going to be a top 3 team in the country. Indiana, what I do like about going into the Oregon game, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they will have a week off in between. Their bye week comes after the Iowa game. They'll get a whole week off. They'll get basically 2 weeks to prepare for Oregon and then go out there to Eugene and play them. I think Indiana's going to be – I think you're going to see Indiana, if they lose road games, they're going to be more competitive in those road games than they were this past season, like we said, at Ohio State, Notre Dame. I think they can compete. I don't think they'll get blown out like they did in the playoff and against Ohio State, though. But I think Oregon's going to win that game just because they're going to be more experienced. Their athletes are probably going to be a little better as well. But I think that could be Indiana's first loss of the year.
October 18th, Michigan State at home.
I think that's a win. That's homecoming for Indiana. Indiana has typically played those homecoming games at 12 o'clock. They've been beautiful days the last 2 years they've played homecoming. Hopefully that is the same this year. I'm actually really looking forward to that game.
Smiling on the Hoosiers.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that game because the colors in the stands, man. It's going to be like Christmas as early. You get your red and then your green. I'm really looking forward to that game. That'll be a good test for Indiana. Beautiful, hopefully going to be a beautiful October day as well. I think Indiana wins that one, and at this point they're 6-1, and after that game I think they'll be bowl eligible.
And then UCLA at home.
Another game I'm really looking forward to, October 25th, to be the same day as my girlfriend's birthday. Me and her are already talking about what our plan's going to be for that day because she doesn't want me to go to the game, and I want to go to the game. So not looking forward to that argument.
The game always wins. Just remember that.
We'll see. We'll see.
Game always wins.
I'm joking when I say that, by the way.
I know. I'm joking, too, because the wife always wins. Don't get me wrong. I understand.
I think Indiana is going to win that game, though. Again, another game at home against UCLA, who's going to be having to travel in. I think Indiana wins that game, and they're 7-1 at this point.
3 of the last 4 on the road, starting at Maryland on November 1st.
That's going to be a tough stretch. That's going to be a tough stretch to finish out the regular season. But those are the ideal opponents to play, besides Penn State coming up, which we'll talk about. But those would be the ideal opponents to play 3 out of 4 on the road because you get 2 winnable games with Maryland and Purdue. I think they're going to beat Maryland and be 8-1.
And then at Penn State.
Tough one.
Has IU ever won at Penn State, I wonder?
Probably not. So, I don't know. 2 years ago under Tom Allen when Indiana went out there to Penn State, they had a chance to win the game. They had a really good chance to win the game. I'm
sure they've won there. I was jesting, IU fans.
Right, and they blew it there towards the end, and it depends when the game's going to be, I think. I think because it's in November, it's going to be a day game. It's going to be 12 o'clock. It's not going to be wide out at 8 o'clock at night where that place is full with 300,000 people and that place is shaking. Like literally it is shaking back and forth. I don't think it'll be like that. I think Indiana will be able to hold their own. I'm going to go with a bold prediction, say Indiana goes out there to Happy Valley and wins.
Whoa.
Indiana. No. I take that back. Indiana has beaten Penn State, but they beat him at Indiana.
Yes, they did.
Right.
I know they've beaten them at
that was
Indiana.
That was one of my top 5 moments as a fan.
IU is 1-9 all time in trips to Penn State.
Wow.
I just looked that up. Thank you, AI. AI is fantastic, of course, until it kills us all, Grant. All right, then Wisconsin at home. November 15th, the last home game, senior night.
I think they'll win that game. They'll be, what will it be, 10-1 at that point? Yeah, they'll be 10-1. And then what'll be good is after that game is that they'll get another bye week going into the Purdue game. So get time to rest you up after playing tough games against
Black Friday.
Against Maryland and Penn State, now Wisconsin. Wisconsin won't be easy at home, but I think Indiana will be able to win just because it'll be at home.
Will the loss in West Lafayette cost IU a playoff spot?
What do you mean?
When IU loses that game in West Lafayette, will it cost them a playoff spot?
Are you joking? You don't know if you're joking?
You never know. Maybe Barry Odom does what Coach Cignetti did, bringing in something new, and who knows? But yes, I am joking. Purdue is not beating Indiana.
I hope so.
Even at West Lafayette.
I hope so, and I'm really looking forward to that game with it being on Black Friday, man. I've never been able to go to it before in the past. Just really, really hope Indiana can go in there and get a win and maybe clinch another spot in the playoff. People have been talking Indiana. They could see Indiana going 6-6 this next year.
I could see it.
I don't.
I don't think it'll happen, but I could see it.
I think the roof.
Tough.
I think the roof's 11-1, and I think the floor is 8-4. I still think they're going to be good. I still think they're going to be really good.
Yeah, they are. Look, they could be good and lose to Illinois, Iowa, Oregon,
Penn State,
and Wisconsin.
Yeah,
they could be good and lose to those teams. That's the point. Not that we expect IU to be any. And sometimes you come off a magical season, you have a bit of a deflation. It could happen.
No, we've seen it happen with Indiana before.
Yeah, well, not a season like that. I don't think they've ever had a season like they had last year.
No, but the most comparable season to that in recent memory was 2020 when they went 6-2, and they beat a couple top ranked teams, but they just the next year
Including
they
Penn
went 2-10.
State.
Yeah, they went 2-10 the next year. But things were different. You have to take into account the circumstances with the new portal. And then the NIL was put into play at that time, and COVID as well. I mean, you don't want to blame it on that kind of. You don't want to make excuses, but those were the circumstances. Yeah, those were the circumstances surrounding it. And Indiana that year was a fluke in 2020. They were, but I don't think in 2025 they will be.
All right, so then you're predicting 11-1. How far do they go in the playoffs then?
I think it also depends who's in the playoff too, but I think they'll be more battle tested than last year in the playoff.
So you're expecting a Final Four team? Is that weird?
I hope. I just want a playoff win. Indiana's not won a bowl game or a postseason game since 1991 on the gridiron. I don't care who they play. I don't care if they go 6-6.
Ron Dunbar.
Well, I don't care if they go 6-6 and have to play Arkansas State in the Pacific Life Holiday Bowl. I just want them to win.
I would go to the Holiday Bowl.
You would?
San Diego's amazing.
I think what would be cool is if they were playing in that bowl game on Christmas Eve out in Hawaii.
There you go.
You have your Christmas
We'll go to that one.
Yeah, we will.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. Go IU.
Go Hoosiers.
Thanks so much to Grant for joining the Central Indiana Sports Report once again. Love the work that he's doing for us. And also to you for listening. Please do us a huge favor and share this with the IU friends and family in your life. That's all we ask. It's not much. We're going to do more, The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.